All you men out here on social media, you need to start making martyrs out of monsters. Now available for pre-order on Kindle. Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Learn how to avoid predatory females in their virtual con games with Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Pre-order your copy of Stop Simping in Cyberspace on Kindle today. Yesterday, I came across a post on Facebook that I found to be absolutely disturbing. And this post on Facebook was martyrizing mass shooters Elliot Rodger, Mark Lepine, George Hennard, and George Sodini. Now, I have a lot of familiarity with all of these cases because I did research on all of these mass shooters for my book, The Man Crisis. And I read the manifesto of Elliot Rodger, and after reading the manifesto of Elliot Rodger and doing research on other mass shooters like Mark Lepine, George Sodini, and George Hennard, I can tell you that none of these men died fighting gynocentrism. No, all of these men committed suicide after participating in their mass shooting rampages, and they were not dying to fight gynocentrism. So this martyrizing of these men is a new and disturbing trend that has been going on for the last couple of years. First, it was the incels on social media going out here and martyrizing Elliot Rodger, and now it looks like we have more people out here looking to make other mass shooters into martyrs instead of going out here and looking critically at the facts of these cases. Because as someone who has gone out here and looked at the facts of these cases, I can tell you that these mass murderers, they were no heroes. No, these were monsters, and we cannot go out here and make martyrs out of monsters because many men are sexually frustrated. Because even though you are sexually frustrated, you cannot go out here and justify what these men did in any way, shape, or form. Because these men, they were mass murderers, and what they did was really sick and depraved. Because only a sick and depraved individual is going to go out here and plan a mass murder, all because they could not get the attention of women, and all because they could not get the sex they believe they were entitled from women. Because the problem with all of these men was not gynocentrism. No, the problem was the dysfunctional way all of these beta males were raised in these single mother households in many cases, and many of these males, because they had no man to give them guidance, like I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, in the chapter Mass Shooters and the Man Crisis, many of these men, they grew up with these delusions that about getting women and believing that the woman would elevate their social status if they had sex with them. So many of these men grew up with a grossly messed up frame of thinking, and it looks like more and more men have the same grossly messed up frame of thinking, where they're now trying to revise the facts and trying to make martyrs out of murderers by saying, oh, they died fighting gynocentrism, when they did not die fighting gynocentrism. No, these men took their own lives after they participated in a mass shooting, which in many cases was one big angry temper tantrum, because many of these men were upset at the fact that they could not gain access to the women that they wanted, and many were upset because they could not gain sexual access to those women they deemed attractive, and they were upset because they could not graduate into manhood as they believed, because these women were denying them access to them sexually. That is the reason why those men went out here and participated in mass murder. That is the reason why they went out here on these shooting rampages. And the irony is, these guys sit here and say, oh, they died fighting for gynocentrism, but when you look at their actions, these men were extremely gynocentric because everything that led to their motives for murder was all about women, and they were all about getting attention from women. So the facts as related to these cases is something that many of these males are not really getting as related to why these guys are mass shooters. No, they are buying into propaganda presented by people who celebrate people like Elliot Rodger, these incels, who create these false narratives talking about, oh, these men died fighting against gynocentrism. No, these men were major supporters of gynocentrism, and these men were mass murderers. And again, their reason for mass murder was not going against a gynocentric system. No, their reason for committing murder was because they were upset that some female they were interested in was not paying them any attention. And in many of the cases of these guys, many of them, they grew up with poor male life skills, poor social skills, and many of these men, they just did not know how to even approach women. They did not know how to have a relationship with a woman. They wanted a fantasy ideal of women that was presented by Madison Avenue advertisers, Hollywood movie studios, and they wanted that dream, like many of these romantic comedies, to come to life for them. But it doesn't work that way in the real world. No, in the real world, men have to go out here and put in that work, and that work requires you to understand that you're going to need a thick skin in the dating scene. Because, for example, like in the case of George Sodini, he thought, oh, I'm going to the gym and I'm going to work out, build up this buff body, and all of the ladies are going to come to me. Now, that is the type of covert contract your beta male comes up with. He believes that if he does something, other people will notice him and want to have relationships with him like that. But it doesn't work like that. When people go to the gym, they're going to the gym for themselves. They're not looking to do something in order to gain sexual access to females. No, if you talk to most guys who work out, they are working on their bodies because they want to build up their stamina. They want to get themselves cut and ripped for themselves. And they are focused on themselves. And again, because you're focused on yourself and doing your thing for you, the women, some of them want to come and approach you because they like the fact that you're taking initiative in your own life. But your George Sodini was going out here looking to gain access to females, and that's why nobody paid him any attention, and he wanted to go on a mass shooting rampage because he could not gain sexual access. But well, the problem was he was going to the gym not looking to improve himself but to get attention from women. And then you have one of them, the mass shooter at Luby's, who I knew was a misogynist for many years, and he had many serious issues. And then you have Elliot Rodger, the patron saint of incels, and people again distort this guy, making him into some sort of hero because they identify with his sexual frustration. But your sexual frustration is not any sort of thing that you can martyrize this guy for. I mean, yeah, just because you are sexually frustrated does not mean you make a hero out of a mass murderer. No, what you need to understand is that these men were not martyrs. And yes, it is very frustrating out here for a lot of guys in this era of Me Too. I know a lot of guys want to go out here and get involved with women, but you need to break out of that whole Madison Avenue Hollywood idea that you are some sort of virgin and that you are less of a man because you have not had any sex just yet. Now, the Most High God, He is blessing you right now because you are in a very good place right now. The Most High has you in this place right now where you can focus on yourself, focus on building yourself up, focus on improving yourself, and you don't really appreciate how blessed you are. Many of these guys who are incels and so-called virgins, they don't really understand that you are in a place where you can go out here and build. You are in a place where you can go in here and put in some work on yourself. And that is one of the big problems with many of these males, is they don't want to put in the work. They want to come out here and just women show up and go to them, and it doesn't work that way for men. Like I talk about in the Man Crisis, many of these males who claim that they're virgins and incels, many of these males, they have a female frame of thinking. Many of these males, because they grew up in single mother households and divorced households, they believe that they're supposed to get women the way a woman gets a man. So they think, oh, I come out here in my nice clothes, like Elliot Rodger believed, and my nice car, and women are just going to come up to you just because you are there. No, that's the way things work for women, and things work completely different for a man. So a man has to go out here and put in that work, because that shows how much of a leader he is to women. But that flies over the head of many of these males out here who want to put people like Elliot Rodger and your George Sodini in a sainthood status. They really don't understand that these males are not men. They don't really understand that these males are not people you want to make a hero out of, and that you don't want to go out here and canonize a killer, because these men did not go out here and die fighting for gynocentrism. No, these cowards killed themselves because they did not want to get arrested by the police, and they did not want to go to jail for the rest of their lives and wind up in prison, where they would wind up getting their hair braided by other inmates, and they would wind up being traded and exchanged for Little Debbie snack cakes and your Fritos chips and your ramen noodles, the same way that incel who blew his hands off making pipe bombs is being turned out right now. That is the main reason why these cowards wound up killing themselves, because they could not go out here and take a responsibility for their actions. And the main reason why they went on these shooting rampages is because many of these males did not have the manhood in them to go out here and take responsibility for their actions. If you want a relationship with a woman, you're gonna have to go out here and put in the work, toughen up your skin, and learn how to deal with rejection. But if you look at Elliot Rodger's manifesto and George Sodini's actions, none of these guys could even go out here and step up to a female to let them know that they were even interested. No, your Elliot Rodger was sitting here seething and simmering and boiling in anger, getting angry at all of these other couples out here, and your George Sodini was sitting here simmering and boiling for long periods of time. Many of these men, again, they were sexually frustrated, and because they did not know how to navigate through their emotions, they wound up exploding in rage, and that's what led to them participating in mass murder. And these are, again, not men you want to martyrize. These are monsters. And what's more troubling is you have people martyrizing these monsters, and that's what makes me think, who is more dangerous, these murderers or the people who martyrize them? Because the people who martyrize them, as I see it, they have some sort of mental health issue, because as a guy who writes about men's issues, I can't get with this type of thing. This is sick and twisted. I will never martyrize a murderer. I won't go out here and justify somebody who has taken the lives of innocent people, and somebody to take the lives of innocent people because he believed that these people were denying him sexual access. Well, you are not entitled to sexual access to a female. You are not entitled to a relationship with a female. And anybody who has that frame of thinking has a clearly distorted frame of thinking, because you are not owed sex and you are not owed any sort of relationship with the woman that you want. No, that's not how things work out here. And many of these males, they don't really understand these core values that as related to life. They don't understand that just because you see an attractive woman out here, and you are not entitled to her, nor are you entitled to have sex with her. And these guys who sit here and talk about they are incels and talk about how they are virgins, well, you're not a virgin. Again, this is you buying into Madison Avenue and Hollywood concepts that promote the idea of male virginity in these movies and make getting laid some sort of rite of passage. No, a woman is the only one who is a virgin, because a woman is the only one with a hymen, and by her breaking the hymen, this is what takes away her virginity. What hymen does a man have? No, a man does not have a hymen, so he cannot be a virgin. Now, he may be sexually inexperienced because he has not had sexual intercourse, but that does not make him a virgin. And that's one of the things that drives many of these men to anger and drives many of these men to rage, is because they buy into the Madison Avenue and Hollywood idea that he needs to go out here and have a woman, and he needs that woman in order to graduate into manhood. And I'm here to tell you that that's not how you graduate into manhood. No, you graduate into manhood by doing the work of, by acknowledging the Most High God, acknowledging Jesus as his son, and taking God's gift of salvation, because he is the one who made you a man, and he made you for the role of being a head of household. He made you to be a steward, and as a responsible steward, I make these videos to help out other men. And again, a responsible steward understands that his value as a man and his role as a man, and he understands that having sex is not the thing that makes you a man. No, the whole thing is that sex is a part of a marriage, and when men and women come together and consummate their sexual relationship, that is when they are married. So these guys are out here angry, talking about how they can't graduate into manhood. And again, they're saying that these men died fighting gynocentrism. No, they did not die fighting for anything except their own sexual frustration. And most of us here in America, we need to stop making these guys into heroes, because these guys are not heroes. They were the villains of the story, and their reasons for killing people were not things we need to go out here and celebrate. Now, if you want to learn how to not be dysfunctional like the person who posted this on social media, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com. And in this book, I explain why so many men are out here frustrated and angry. And this book has helped many men work through their frustration and finally understand why things are the way they are, and learn how to approach things to a better direction towards their lives. And you can find that book on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it on Smashwords, the iBook store, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.